Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Me's My Passion, YouTube's premier channel about all things women's football. Match day number 19 of the Women's World Cup is just wrapped up here with the final fixtures of the round of 16 wrapping up between France and Morocco and Colombia versus Jamaica, which is the match we'll get right into here. With Colombia lining up in a 4-2-3-1 formation and Jamaica lining up in a 4-4-2 formation. And going into this match, obviously the stakes were high and the winner of this match would go on to face England here. And going into the first half of the match was pretty much even Stevens here, as neither team really did their best to threaten the opposition defenders here, let alone the goalkeepers. In the beginning of the first half, Jamaica were the ones who were in control, but very soon Colombia would wake up and get back into the game here, and eventually as the first half would drag on, Colombia were the ones with the lion's share of possession, even though there were some very good opportunities from the likes of Shaw and Brown, who did their best to try and get their team forward, but unfortunately they couldn't find a break. Neither could the Colombians, even though they had their scintillating attack of Uzme, Ramirez and Caicedo there. And going into the second half, it was 0-0 to both teams. And really in the second half, that's when things started to kick up a notch, as Colombia were now looking very, very desperate to get themselves on goal, considering the chances that they had in the first half here. And thankfully, just in the 51st minute, they would finally get that opportunity, as Uzme would finish off a very beautiful shot here, which was completely left unmarked somehow by the Jamaican defense. And she was picked up by Guzman, who crossed it into her, and she just finished off coolly. The keeper had no chance of catching it, the defenders had no chance of recovering, and Colombia had the early goal here in the second half of the game. And from here, Jamaica really kicked things up a notch here, as Donaldson and his wards, they suddenly shifted to a more dynamic approach in attack, which was something that I had said they need to do here in the round of 16 here, and they had done something to that extent in the beginning stages of the match. But at this point, now that they were a goal down, they really did their best to try and get themselves forward. And for the rest of the game, as much as Jamaica wouldn't control and dominate possession, they were the ones who were threatening more and more. But Colombia were able to hold themselves and to maintain their steel and metal here to make sure that they would get to the end of the game as the winners, as the match did end up being 1-0 to the Colombians here. And of course, that would mean that the Reggae girls and their journey in the World Cup has come to an end, and Colombia have made history by qualifying for the quarterfinals of the Women's World Cup for the first time in their history here. And looking at this game here, for the Reggae girls, there was nothing that they were really lacking, because they are very robust and astute team in defense, midfield and attack. But the one thing that I would really criticize them for is their inability to really create chances here, and some team selection would be the blame for that, because when Matthews did come on later on in the second half for Jamaica, she was the liveliest and the most threatening player when it comes to creative opportunities here. And I think if she had started the game, there would have been much more service from Matthews herself and Brown to Khadija Shaw, but unfortunately that wasn't there. And I think the lack of creative presence in the Jamaican team is really what cost them at the end here, because if there was someone who could be able to feed chances and opportunities to Shaw, we would be having a different outcome in this match here. So that's something that the Reggae girls should definitely look into going into future tournaments. But other than that, it was a very good opportunity and a good showing by the Jamaicans overall here at the Women's World Cup, and hopefully the next time around they can do even better than they've done here so far. And from the South American Pop-Up girls, this was a very good account of themselves yet again. Colombia have been the dark horses of this knockout stage of the Women's World Cup and for the tournament in general, because they've just been a very good, well-rounded team. I think they've got some very bright starlets who are going to carry the team forward, like Guzman and of course Caicedo, and obviously the likes of Ramirez as well. They'll be the ones who are leading the team into the future here. And I think the very well blended mix of youth and experience here is something that is carrying the team towards more and more goals here, as of course they have qualified for the quarterfinals for the first time here. And in this match, they did struggle to break down Jamaica's defense initially, but they did manage to find a way. And I think that resilience and that gung-ho attitude that the Colombians have will definitely take them far, not only in this World Cup, but in future tournaments as well, because what they do on the field is nothing short of magnificent. They're a very well-rounded team, and I do think with little more investment and resources allocated to them by the Colombian Federation, the women's team can go to astronomical levels, as they were just a really good team to watch here in the World Cup in general and definitely in the future. So congratulations to Colombia for this historic moment, and here's to more from them. And the final match of the round of 16 saw France take on Morocco, as France lined up in a 4-4-1-1 formation and Morocco lined up in a 4-4-2 formation. And pretty much from the get-go, it was going to be the France show here, as they opened up very well here. Morocco looked like they were very disorganized, which was very uncommon for them given their matches that we've seen in the group stages here. And soon enough, France would open up the scoring after Diani would make sure that she would head home from a very good offensive play, with the Moroccan defense being fast asleep, which is a theme throughout this game here. As just 5 minutes later, the score would be doubled through Dali, who would get a cutback here to finish off a very weak but clinical strike that the goalkeeper was just not alert to, and again, the defenders were nowhere to be found to stop her from making that shot. And before the game could even be settled, there would be another goal, this time from Eugenie Le Sommer, who in the 23rd minute would pounce on a loose ball that came off a Moroccan defender to net in the third goal of the game, unmarked. And again, the defense was nowhere to be found, and the keeper was obviously frustrated. It was a very poor showing for Morocco here. As for the rest of the second half, they were simply chasing French shadows here, and going into the second half, it was more of the same here. France had obviously settled down now because they were 3 goals up, and Morocco were just chasing the game throughout here. And unfortunately, despite their best attempts, Morocco couldn't even threaten from afar, as they could not get themselves in on goal no matter their best attempts. And the worst part was that there was almost a chance there, the 48th minute for Girardi, but unfortunately Pero Menya, the keeper for France, proved to be too good for her. And eventually the game would be settled in the 70th minute as Besho, who's just having a very good start to life in the Women's World Cup here in her second match, crossed the ball from afar for Le Sommet to finish off with another header and to make it 4-0 for the French, which would be the final score here, and Morocco would crash out of the World Cup in spectacular style. This was an uncharacteristically poor game for Morocco, who had recovered from the initial humiliation against Germany in the World Cup so far. And for them to go down like this, it is really a sign of the defensive frailties that were on display today, and not an overall performance by the Moroccan team. So it does look like it was just a bit of an off performance by the defensive quartet of Morocco here, and hopefully at their next tournament they can do much better. And it is just unfortunate to see how they went out here, because there was a huge expectation for there to be much more of a fight for Morocco based on their performances so far, but unfortunately it was not to be this time round. And of course, with Les Bleus advancing to the quarterfinals of the Women's World Cup, where they'll be facing off against remaining co-host Australia, this was a very good display of the defensive assurity that was lacking in their game against Panama, and definitely going forward they are definitely a team to be reckoned with. And even the player management as well as the substitutions made by Over and Out in this match should be commended, and it is definitely a good sign that shows the amount of depth that is in this team here. And hopefully France can carry on this kind of performance into their next game against the Matildas, which will definitely be a surefire entertaining match to watch. And those are the things that we learned from the games today here on match day number 19 of the Women's World Cup. Of course, with France and Morocco ending, that also does mean that it is the end of the round of 16 here of the Women's World Cup, and the quarterfinal matches are as follows. You have Spain taking on the Netherlands, Japan taking on Sweden, England taking on Colombia, and Australia taking on France. And the first of these games will kick off on Friday, and it is definitely going to be a set of matches that we can all look forward to enjoying when the time eventually comes. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.